You're listening to XSGaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander, Skullion, and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome back to another episode of XSGaming Podcast. This is episode 109, and we're recording this on the 11th of October. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Skullion, and joined with me is my wonderful co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Hello, everyone. I have to take a title of a movie or episode from one of my favorite older cartoons and just ask, is it fall yet? And if you get that reference, I'll send you a copy of Time Lord on the NES because it's laying on the floor right here next to me. But yes, is it fall? Technically, yes. Does it feel that way?
No.
No.
It doesn't.
Summer lingers on.
I know. We had a good week. We had a good week where it was like, I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. It was, in the mornings it was like a little chilly, and during the day it was like 60, and at night it'd get a little chilly, but that didn't last long because now the humidity's back and kicking our asses.
No, like upper 80s. Like I legitimately wear like a hoodie jacket like just in the morning, even through the summer, just because it has more pockets and it's just got a bunch of shit in my pockets, and I like it. In the morning, it's always just wearable. But you cannot wear that during the day without melting. They've been having some rain. It's just weird. September 21st, that's fall, man. Halloween's approaching. And it definitely is a little bit harder to get in that Halloween spirit sometimes, just when that weather is like, you don't have those seemingly crisp fall nights. They're a little bit muggy and gross, man. I'm still bumping the AC 77, 76 in the house. I'm not opening the windows. It's kind of gross, but hey, it is what it is, and it'll probably be freezing to death in the winter, and then I'll complain about that.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about not feeling like the Halloween spirit, because I was just thinking about it today, and I was talking to some of my friends, and we were talking about, making videos and stuff, and I was like, you know what, I haven't really felt the urge to make because every year I usually make a Halloween special on my channel, like I review like some, horror game or something like that, and I was like, I just haven't felt like doing it. I mean, here we are on the 11th of October, to me, the way time goes by so fucking fast, I'm like, here we are in the middle of October. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm like, I haven't even felt like, getting into horror movies and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I have done a bit that. One of the horror groups, the Shockwaves podcast, which actually is a podcast I've honestly never listened to, but I'm in this group, and the group is so awesome. I know I really need to listen to the show, but it's not like a requirement. It's kind of like our page. Like, you don't have to listen to us. It'd be nice if you did. So I'm going to definitely check those guys out. But the page is so awesome. If there's ever any fights, arguments, like the moderators, like shut it down. Nobody's been like, oh man, that movie's stupid. We might be like, oh man, it's like I just didn't care for that one. I like this coolest bunch of people, and I've been inspired by a lot of people with their 31 Days of Horror. A lot of people, watch a movie every day in October. I've tried to do an A to Z of movies I've never seen, which is only, 26, but lots of times I'll miss a day. And It's always been very hard to get through. I have trouble sticking to stuff. But as I mentioned before, I've been having to take a lot of time off from work just because they make me. I'm not sick or dying or anything. Don't worry. And I've been a couple days been cramming in like 3 movies, been talking to a friend of mine a bunch about movies because he's been watching a bunch, and I've been recommending some to him, but just been having a blast. I'll sit there and watching a lot of older black and white ones have just been really great. I love a movie like that. Sometimes they're like 75 minutes, so it's almost like a long TV show. You don't feel like you're sitting there forever. So been getting a little bit more I guess in the spirit that way. No decorating yet. I'm sure my wife will when she gets back in town. And our friends down the street that run a haunted house or, kind of haunted yard. If you're in the Fayetteville or Spring Lake, North Carolina area, the Strahan Scream Fest, for just, you think of people that, kind of do something at their house, it is awesome. And I mean, there are so many people in my neighborhood on Halloween, like going to there, like thousands, like really, insane. I sit on the porch and drink beer and pass out candy, and then you hear people yelling and screaming, and I mean, people are literally terrified. And it's really cool. They just do it all for free. They accept donations, but just, really good people. So they start decorating, it's insane. And that always kind of helps to get me in the spirit, but hopefully cooler weather coming soon, and, Halloween and candy corn and all that lovely stuff.
Indeed, indeed. Now, it was funny because before the show, I was like, man, there's not a whole lot of gaming news that's been going on, but actually there has. I guess I've just been so busy with other things, I haven't really been paying attention. But one of the things I want to get into is, of course, the SNES Mini Classic was revealed, or it came out. It was revealed a couple months ago. It finally came out, but that's not what I want to talk about, the SNES Classic. People have been talking about, possibly maybe we'll get an N64 Classic because Nintendo was leaking some of its patent stuff about that. Well, something else came out that was really interesting. They just redid their trademark for the Game Boy, the name Game Boy. So some people are thinking, could we get a Game Boy Mini Classic by any chance? That's really interesting, actually.
That seems quite possible, and that kind of, lies in the region. Like, would that be? It's kind of hard to not picture it, playing as a handheld, or would they be able to do some kind of, because granted, if they did it in the old school, Game Boy technology, it probably wouldn't be that hard, to do, and with still being affordable, with built-in ones. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if you could hook it up to a TV and have a portable thing. But a lot of people would be into that, and despite any of the ones they release on the eShop, that it still doesn't matter. They still put out these minis, and Game Boy is something that so many people had. I really think a lot of people kind of forget about it. We mentioned the minis are kind of for the layman, the person maybe who hasn't played it in a long time, doesn't bother with emulation. They just want something easy, something neat. Hey, Nintendo put this out, and I think a lot of people, how the Game Boy has grown, it looks, different but similar. Similar to us, but different to many from that original, brick Game Boy. I think a lot of people, some have just, it's moved on. They don't know about GBA or DS or 3DS, but I think, I really think that has the potential, much like the other ones, to be even more huge. Just something that a lot of kids had, be like, oh man, that'd be just kind of great to sit there and, mess with. I imagine it might be maybe a little, I don't know, could it be like a little smaller? Would it have a backlit? It's a lot of possibilities and options with it. Yeah,
I was thinking it'd be kind of cool if it was no thicker than maybe a smartphone, like it was really slim and sleek and it had the buttons and everything. And, maybe it came with a couple of games already built in, very similar to what the that little Game Boy they have on AliExpress. That's like a backlit Game Boy Color. It takes Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, and it's got built in I think 50 games or something. And of course, it's Chinese knockoff, so it's 20 really good games, and the other 30 are just Basketball Street, stuff like that. But I was like, man, that'd be really interesting, and what made me really think about it was this past weekend was the Nintendo World Championship, and I was watching that, and I noticed that some of the games they chose, the games they chose for the tournament were games like, Zelda Breath of the Wild, ARMS, Splatoon, Smash Brothers, but they also picked some games that were very kind of obscure that I didn't expect them to pick. They, instead of picking Super Mario Brothers, they picked Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on the Game Boy Color. And they also picked Birds and Beans, which was a really obscure Game Boy Advance game. So I was like, maybe this is, their way of kind of foreshadowing that they're going to be working on the Virtual Console for the Switch, because I think the Switch would be awesome to have Game Boy and all the way through Game Boy Advance on the Switch, because it is essentially a handheld console hybrid. It would just make sense. But maybe this was also kind of a hint that, maybe we'll be getting some of those kind of games on some sort of Game Boy Mini. I mean, even if it's a Game Boy Mini, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be the original Game Boy. It could be a Game Boy Mini that spans the many years that the Game Boy brand was out. You know, have some originals, have some stuff from Game Boy Color, maybe have some stuff from Game Boy Advance, and that'd be really cool. That'd be really awesome.
Yeah, cover a bit more. I mean, because really, like, Game Boy Color was a system for me that I think I never had one. I was just kind of out of Game Boy at the time. I don't even think I'd owned mine anymore. I probably traded it. But when you look at like the classic line of those games, like it really does fit a bit more on the original Game Boy lineage to me. As many great ones that were on the Color, it just doesn't. We had some redos of some Game Boy ones that were classics, but you just didn't have as many. But still, I like that idea, like you said, to just go ahead and have one to cover, and maybe since the games are smaller, you could put more on there. Considering too, like if we explored the option of maybe doing a handheld and where you could hook it up to your TV. I'm not even going to go into like color palette options for like the Super Game Boy. If it's just black and white, that still would be really cool. That's one I would even still think about getting, because I do love the Game Boy, if I could find one. Which always is the damn problem with those things.
Indeed. But yeah, so that came out, and that was really interesting. Also, some PlayStation news. PlayStation 5 release date, PS4 4K boost, and new PSVR. Now, PS5, when I see this stuff and I see like, PS5's coming out, it's always kind of like, of course it is. When's it coming out? I'm looking at an article right now from Daily Star. It's a UK-based website. And then it says, Sean Landon, chairman of Worldwide Studios and president of Sony Interactive Entertainment of America, confirmed earlier this year with German website Gollum, Gollum, that a PS5 is coming, but it will probably be some time before it's released. And although Microsoft is looking to take that technical next step with the Xbox One X next month, the PS4 and PS4 Pro both are selling huge in numbers. And as great, as big and flashy as the 4K and 6 terabyte consoles might be, there's also a third possibility that EA, Chris Everson, the publisher of VP Investor and Relations, said towards a Deutsche Bank Technology. He says he has doubts over the future of consoles like Sony's PlayStation 5s, telling attendees that streaming service through smart TVs could be the future of gaming. He says, I think it's inevitable that the gaming entertainment world will move in much the same way that music and other media has gone, in the sense that people have moved from an ownership model to an access model. And it's like you'll see stuff like Spotify and Netflix, and I mean, this is pretty much this article, when it came up and people were sharing it, I was like, this is pretty much stuff that we already know. We know that there's going to be PlayStation 5. When's it going to come out? Even this article says sometime in the future, but don't expect it anytime soon. And, one of the things I always have to tell people, if tomorrow they said, we're coming out with the PlayStation 5, don't get mad just because you just bought a PlayStation 4.
Man, I just bought a PlayStation 4 in December, man.
That's like one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate that because, the thing is like if a console's been out, like the way I look at it is if a console's been out for 5 years, then it's inevitable that another console's going to come out. Now, but in that 5 years, if you wait to the fourth year to buy that console and they're coming out with a new one, I'm sorry, man. The companies can't stop because you just bought the console 4 years. It boggles my mind when people do that. But I mean, I don't see the PS5 coming out anytime soon. At the earliest, I could see it maybe 2020.
Yeah, I was hoping even like 20. It's like 2021, 22.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you hear about it. Right when those launch. You got to look. Are they going to be upgradable? We talked about things like that before. Are we going to stop seeing, different 5, 6? Streaming definitely going to become, more prevalent. But my thing is with the streaming, much like with movies, though, with movies, we still have that option. Like I said, the horror group I'm in, a lot of those people are, very into buying physical media. That's much alive with movies still. Lots of cool extras, because honestly, when you stream these movies, you don't get the commentary, you don't get deleted scenes, and if it's a movie you really like, a lot of that shit is cool, and you just don't get that. Now, will streaming upgrade in the future? One of my favorite channels on Roku, which is free, is the Shop Factory channel, who I also buy a lot of their DVDs. And they actually have one of their on their streaming site. They have movies, and for a lot of the movies, they actually have the commentary that's on it. They have a separate, little stream pick for that.
I love the
which
commentary.
I think that's really cool. They give you that option, so it's obviously available there. Like I said, on a free service, which also. Speaking of Nintendo World Championships, they show the old Starrcade show, not to be confused with NWA or WCW Starrcade wrestling pay-per-views, the old video game show Starrcade. And they have all the old episodes on the Shout Factory's channel. And I'll sit up late at night sometimes and have a drink, just watch some people. And I'm always like, man, that one person sucks, man. Like, I'd kill them even in this little game I don't play. And then you see somebody else on there, and you're like, man, that dude would whoop my ass. Like, he's got it. And they're just these normal, kids. A lot of them are, just dorky-looking 80s kids. Like, a lot of us were. It's really funny to watch. But it is really cool, that they had, shows like that. And you don't really have, like video game contest shows as much nowadays. I mean, now people game for, their career, which is insane. Before, they're just trying to get a free damn TV, back then, and now it's like, I'm making thousands of dollars. So, but whether you want a TV or, are able to play games for your job, man, more power to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and we're at this state right now that it kind of makes me think of when I was a little younger, and I remember the transition of like the cell phone. Okay, like we had the land phone, and then the cell phone was slowly coming out, and a lot of people now have their cell phones and they can't imagine life without it. There was a time that having a cell phone was a luxury, having a cordless phone was a luxury. But seeing that transition with technology, that's kind of how I feel the way physical and digital media is going. I really do like physical media. I know I made a video not too long ago. It was probably my last video I uploaded where I was talking about how digital gaming is the future. That was just a really nice clickbait title for people to click on it. But I explained a little bit how physical media is very important, but also digital media is very much the way of the future in the sense that we can archive and we can look back at things. And I think both mediums, honestly, are very important. I really wouldn't like to see physical media completely vanish. I would always like to have the option to go out and buy a video game I can hold in my hand, or I can buy it from a store. I never want it to just be always physical or always digital. I like having that choice. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I mean, and as it does, maybe shrink in the future as far as the amount of physical, I think more places, say what you want about them, but limited run games, I think we'll see more companies like that show up that will give people the option. And I think in time things will be easier to get if the demand's there, and they're able to make some profit. The customer can get what they want. That physical media stays alive because people, as I mentioned with movies, people still collect VHS tapes. I have a little collection of people are like, man, I have a VCR. I'm like, you don't have a VCR? Like, what? That's odd to me that someone doesn't have a VCR. That's how just normal that is. I was like, I'm still going to watch this tape I have. I have bootleg VHS tapes from laser discs of horror movies before they were available on DVD. And, they still look, great to me. It's just something. People are always going to collect it. CDs, I mean, things like tapes. You look at vinyl. It's all, there's Walkmans available. So the physical gaming is in the long run, the size and scope of it may shrink, but you're going to still get more options. And, a lot of, as we see with some of as we'll be talking about some of the indie titles, even a lot of them, a lot are available download only, but a lot are, coming out in physical form too with really cool little bonuses.
Indeed. I mean, you brought up a good point that just made me think of the WiiWare. The WiiWare shop is actually going to be closing in about 2 years, and that's one of the reasons why I made the video. And, when I made that video, it was a little bit of a response to people that were talking about, they were talking really negatively about digital, and the fact that, once it's gone, it's gone. If the server goes down, or if a company's not around anymore, you also have copyrights. If someone loses the rights to, say, Marvel versus Capcom, at one point when Disney bought out Marvel, Capcom couldn't no longer have Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2 and 3 available online for downloading. So they took it off temporarily. Now, they brought back Marvel vs. Capcom 3. But the thing is there are games on the WiiWare channel, and some great ones, like Castlevania Rebirth, or the adventure game, or, Contra or Blaster Master. They made exclusive games of those series on the WiiWare channel, and when that channel goes, those games will be gone forever unless Nintendo makes ports of some sort and re-release it on the Switch. But also taking into consideration that once something's out, there's already someone trying to archive it, and in this case, emulation. There are so many websites that you can find these games that were originally on the WiiWare channel that now you can download. So if this, in 2 years, when this channel is completely gone, these games aren't going to be gone forever. They're just no longer going to be on the WiiWare channel. You'll still be able to play them. I mean, of course, you'll have to emulate, and that runs into some aspects, like maybe if you don't have a modded Wii or Wii U, or maybe if your PC's not high enough to run this stuff, maybe you'll have some issues, but it's still always going to be there. And that's, to me, that's some of the importance of digital and physical. I feel like both of them have to exist. It's not Highlander. It can, it's not, there can only be one. No, it has to be two.
It's choices. Like you said, it's for that collector, the person that wants something, for the person that, wants to, they don't care any means. They just want to play the game. You could probably play some of these games, on a modded, Wii U, or could we get a collection? A lot of us would definitely buy that, because like you said, those games were awesome, and I really think a lot of people missed out on those.
Oh yeah.
Some of the, when you kind of think of, Konami games, sometimes it was a great, a little string in between, in the, Blaster Master with the Hudson, but the Konami, Castlevania, Gradius, I think was the other Konami title. Yeah. But really cool, man. Definitely, they had an old school feel. They were, simple games, but those games really had the heart, to me. They were really fun, and a collection, or either just to be available again, because the Wii, that's a couple systems ago now for Nintendo. So you definitely get the things with the rights, and it, as time goes on, it gets complicated. So it is nice that at the end of the day, like we said, there is an option out there as far as emulation. It's just about still being able to, play these games. If you want to wait, a friend of ours, RGT85, Sean, recently got a copy of Dragon Force on Saturn that someone sent him, which is crazy. I know he did a article for Destructoid. That was a game I've waited 20 years to play. And we all know Saturn, emulation isn't necessarily quite on point,
right?
But it's cool. You can either buy a game, man, I've been waiting 20 years to play, or maybe there's a game, some of the older Atari 800 games I had. It's like, I haven't played this game in 20 years. That's the other side of it. And a lot of these games I can still go back and find. And, that's it. It's just about, what do you want? Playing the game, having those options. Physical, digital, like you said, it's just all in one, big bubble of games.
Indeed, indeed. And before we close out the news, it was one. We're jumping right back to Sony for a second because I was just looking at my notes and I'm like, oh, I forgot to mention this. But finally, Sony also announced an updated version of its VR hardware, the PSVR, this week. And while the majority of the headset is mostly the same, there have been a few noticeable improvements. To begin with, the headphone jack has moved from its place on the cable to being integrated into the headset itself on the back of the unit. Secondly, there's a thinner single cable carrying data traffic to the processing unit, making the whole thing a little bit more lightweight. And the biggest update to the whole device is that the headset now supports HDR, something the PS4 and PS4 Pro now support. And this is thanks to a new pass-through unit being sold with the headset. It says, before you had to choose between playing a game in standard definition or in HDR on your television. And Sony also notes that there are several VR titles that they're excited about, including Monster of the Deep, Final Fantasy 15, The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, Gran Turismo Sport. The new headset will be available to purchase in Japan on October 14th, but a US and European release date has not been confirmed. Now, I know I don't have one, you don't have one, but we do have some listeners that do enjoy the PS VR. The first person that comes to my mind is my friend Justin and Ryan from the Casket Creatures. That's like the two guys I think of when I think of VR. And I talked to Justin about it, and Justin's he's really excited about it. He was like, "Man, this is actually kind of cool." Because I mean, the VR does have some. The first headset unit did have some setbacks with, like, you know, being kind of bulky. This is kind of more of a slim line. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't look like it's going to make the price drop, which is kind of a downer.
Yeah, no, probably. Maybe it might end up going up, you know. VR is still one of those ones that still, you know, a lot of people say it was kind of gimmicky, and it did really kind of pop up, and it was kind of like there for a minute, and you know, it's still kind of there. I don't want to say it was like a fad, because I think that's something as time goes on we'll definitely see more of. You know, I personally was thinking of getting one, you know, and I asked Ryan about it, and I was thinking between a Switch and VR, and he was like, "Dude, get a Switch." Which is great, you know, awesome decision. You know, I think when it comes to that money, you know, that you'd spend, it's like there's just not that many games. You know, it will get better, yes, but sometimes with games getting better, sometimes it's, you know, more technology, it's more price, it's, you know, it's one of those if it dropped down more, you know. So if I go get the VR set for like, say maybe like $150. That would be a lot more tempting, but it's not really at that range. And I think the fact that if it was at a cheaper range, you would have more people, more involvement, maybe more games. It's kind of in that little standstill area of where it's just I don't know if there's enough support to support more of the stuff coming out. But I also do think there is a lot of future just within, you know, the virtual reality all in general.
Yeah, you know, if the VR was cheaper to begin with, I think even some of the people that, you know, say that it's a gimmick, say it's a fad, I think they would change their tune. If it was like, you know, at the most like $200, those people that talk smack about the VR would probably have one right now. Because the thing is like, no matter who you are, if you're a gamer, you've had that thought of VR. We've all had the thought of VR and how cool it would be, and there's so many games out there that I would love to play in this immersive world. I mean, hell, even the Yakuza series. If they came out with Yakuza VR, that would be amazing. You know, if you could just walk in first-person view down the streets of Japan and go and play pachinko and like drink in a bar or something, or get in a fist fight, that'd be fun. Maybe kind of scary if you ran to like the Shake Me Down guy. That'd be kind of scary. Yeah,
virtual running.
That'd be kind of scary. But you know, I think if it was cheaper, I think a lot more people would be more apt about it. Same way with the Wii U. I mean, the Wii U, while when it first came out, it was cheaper than the PS4 and Xbox One. But then when those consoles dropped in price and the Wii U stayed up there. I know plenty of people that have like talked about getting a Wii U, and they hear the price and they're like, oh, I'll just wait. I'll just wait for the price to drop. They're like, I want to get a Wii U when it's like $120.
Yeah,
and
that just never did. That never really did have that price drop that it needed to, that would have, I think, boosted sales a lot, especially at the end as the sales were lagging. They could have sold a lot more there at the end. Yeah,
I have no idea why, when they ceased production on the Wii U and they were dropping down production and games, why they just didn't drop the price down to go ahead and move the units. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's Wii U's in GameStop that's probably been there for like 2 or 3 years, because I went to GameStop today and I saw a used Switch. I saw a Switch there used for $270, and I saw a Wii U for freaking $200. And I was like, this is ridiculous. There's only like an $80 difference between the two consoles. It's like the Wii U should be like $120 and the Switch should be like, the $280. I think $280 is fair.
Even used, you would think. Like, I don't know if they have some kind of standard they have to keep with what it was always sold with as new. When you look at the new ones, it never dropped. And as time went on, it was just like, why even bother? Because you could get a system that had, way more games, or sometimes if you just get something that's cheap, and you look at the end, like either having that stock, not selling, okay, that's not making you any money. If you sell it cheap, you're selling it at a loss, but, I mean, you're still getting some money in return.
Yeah.
Whether it's negative or positive, it's something.
Hey, $20 is $20.
Exactly.
But yeah, so guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about some indie titles, because I don't know about you, James. Actually, I kind of do know that you and I have been playing a lot of indie titles lately, and I was like, what better way than to make an episode about it? So sit back, relax, guys, and we'll be right back. Hello, listeners. I'm sure some of you are enjoying the SNES Mini Classic, or just the Super Nintendo in general, and you're thinking, how could it get any better than this? Well, folks, from Hagen's Alley's Books, the folks who brought you the Nintendo Entertainment System Compendium and the NES Oddities and Homebrew Revolution, comes the complete SNES Collector's Book Definitive Edition, featuring every SNES game released on not only the American, but with the Definitive Edition. You're also going to get those European exclusives, unreleased titles and hidden gems, holy grails, and even some homebrews. And it is now live on Kickstarter. You know me, folks, unless it's legit, I won't say. The link will be on the description of this episode to Hagen's Alley Books and the Kickstarter, so you guys can support this really awesome cause. These are great books, guys. I really, really recommend them. I am a proud owner of the Nintendo Entertainment System Compendium and the NES Oddities and Homebrew Revolution. Great books, and I really want to see this materialize, and I want you guys to check it out. So there'll be a description and a link to the SNES Collector's Book Definitive Edition. That's right. As always, guys, thanks for listening, and as always, happy gaming. All right, and we are back, guys, and that was just a little advertisement. Totally not sponsored. It wasn't a paid ad or anything like that. I did this to help out a friend, my good friend Jeffrey Wittenhagen, on his new Kickstarter, The Complete SNES Guide Definitive Edition. It just went live this past weekend on Kickstarter. It's doing really great. And I'll have a link on the description to this episode and to the YouTube upload of this episode, so you can visit the Kickstarter, and you can also visit Hagen's Alley as well if you want to purchase more books. I actually did a review of 2 of the books that he had sent me. He sent me the Nintendo Entertainment System Compendium, which I actually wrote an article in on that, talking about my memories of Super Mario Bros. 3 with my grandpa. I wrote an article on that. And also NES Oddities and the Homebrew Revolution, which is, oh man, this book is freaking awesome. If you're a big fan of, imports like Famicom and stuff like that, this book is like so thick, full of Famicom titles. I've been like going through and be like, ooh, I'm gonna check this out. I'm gonna check this out, and I want to see what this is all about. And also, Holy Grails, European variants, and these books are great for collectors, but it's also great for just having this history, and in a physical format, like having it on a book on a coffee table, to start a conversation. Someone comes over to your house and you're like, check this out. So I'll have a link on the description below to Hagen's Alley books, and also to his Kickstarter as well. But yeah, we're going to get into some indie talk. And what brought this up is, there's 2 games I've been playing. And I know one of them you've been playing as well, James. Golf Story on the Nintendo Switch, and Cuphead. Now, I'm going to get in a little bit of Cuphead because it's a game I have been playing, and usually we save that for the end of the show, but I think this is a great segue to get into the whole indie talk. But, I was really curious about Cuphead, but I did not have an Xbox One. And I was like, you know what? This sucks. This is the first time that I've ever been like, I would like to have an Xbox One. I'd like to play Cuphead. And thankfully, Cuphead was also released on Steam. And my friend Amanda, she was like, I wonder if you can get it running on Steam on your laptop. And I was wondering that too. And she ended up sending it to me because you can gift games to people on Steam. She sent me a copy of Cuphead. And so I put it on Steam, and it worked perfectly. Now, my laptop is not a gaming laptop. I don't play a whole lot of PC games other than, like, emulators. But even, like, the emulation I do is nothing special. I mean, the most I go up is maybe, like, PlayStation 1, which plays good. But the rest of it, if I go to, like, PS2 or Dreamcast, it staggers. So Cuphead's very underpowered. So if anyone's listening and you don't have an Xbox One, you can get Cuphead on Steam for $20. And I've known people that had a laptop that was made in 2009 that is running Cuphead right now, which is awesome. So I've been playing that, and yeah, I mean, I just get into the little bit of indie talk. I'm going to ask you real quick, James, what was like one of the first games that you can kind of remember getting that you knew was an indie title?
Kind of hearing about it, and it's one that, as we mentioned, with some getting physical releases, and I'm sure there was some, way further back that just maybe didn't really click. But I can think of like Alien Hominid. It was one of those games you kind of heard about. It ended up getting released on, everything, PS2, GameCube, and I think it came out as more of even like a budget title. Which one thing with a lot of indie games, sometimes we'll think of the word cheap, and we don't mean as far as like, as a cheap game. Sometimes, a lot of times they're cheap in price, as compared to many of the other ones. But Alien Hominid was just one of those, simpler games. There was a lot going on. Didn't have, knock you dead, detailed graphics. It was very comical, simple. Still had lots of blood, lots of cool things going on. And it was one of those games that sometimes a lot of the indie games will have that kind of throwback feel. And it was one that definitely, felt a little bit more like a Contra, kind of like a run-and-gun game. The Behemoth Studios was the one, who also did Castle Crashers, which was a huge game. It never got a physical release, as far as I know. It might have been on some kind of compilation. But that was one I had always, looked forward to playing too for a long time, because that was, more in the vein of your beat 'em up, going back to the older titles, and 4 players, it had the online, and it's still a very huge selling game, and just goes to show you don't have to have a super budget, and they both looked very similar, very kind of more cartoony, simpler graphics, but lots of times they'll throw in extras, like add a lot of humor, within the characters themselves and the things they do. But just both, 2 different games, run and gun, beat 'em up, 2 different sides of the spectrum, but 2 beloved genres that just both ended up being awesome games.
Yeah, I mean, I started hearing more about the indie last gen. Xbox and Microsoft, they did something really special. something that hadn't been really on home consoles, in the sense that they made this community, this Xbox Live community, where they had people that could submit games, and the community would vote on this game, and it would be on the marketplace. They were usually a lot cheaper. Some of them were pretty poor quality. I mean, they were like some of them were pretty bad. But one game that was actually part of that community that went on to become very successful is Meat Boy, Super Meat Boy. And that's still one of my favorite indies. Yes, it is so freaking hard, but it is so rewarding at the same time. And, it's kind of like how I feel about Cuphead. Cuphead's a very tough game. It's not impossible, It's not one of those games that's hard because it's broken. It's a game that plays like how old school games played, where you had to memorize character patterns, and you had to memorize certain button combinations, and that's kind of how Meat Boy was. That you would go through this stage like 5 or 6 times, get ready to like bite your controller or throw it, or however you expelled your gaming rage. And then once you beat it, you would just feel like you're on cloud 9. And that's kind of how I felt when I played Meat Boy, and that's the way I play Cuphead. That's how I feel. But my first indie title that I bought was on the Xbox 360, and it was Limbo. I checked out the video the day I bought my Xbox 360. This was my first game console that had online, and I could go online with it, and I was in the marketplace. And of course, I went through like the Xbox Arcade, and I was like, oh yeah, Gunstar Heroes, Symphony of the Night, Marvel vs. Capcom, Mega Man 9, this is awesome. But then I went into a little bit more of the indie side, and that's when I found Limbo. And Limbo is such a interesting game in the sense that it's very simplistic. It's very like, black and white. It works a lot on shadows. As a matter of fact, your character's like a shadow himself, and it's this very creepy and atmospheric, almost like a German expressionism horror movie.
Is that the one with the spider?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's got that like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari kind of look to it, And I was sitting there playing it, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is so good. And I really enjoyed that. I played that, and then of course another indie title that I felt like that when it came out, that was like such a big indie buzz that everyone talked about and everyone really loved. And I would like to get your input on it, but Fez. You remember when Fez came out with? I
remember hearing, and I've never played Fez. I've never played it.
You're not missing much.
It's one of those ones you remember hearing so much buzz about, but I remember looking at, the demo screens or little videos of it, and I was just like, I don't know, man, it just doesn't really look like something that I want to play. And it always seemed like it was one of those indie titles that it costs a little bit more than the others, and sometimes I was like, yeah, man, I could get like 2 of these other ones that look more fun to me as compared to that. But it's one that it was very prolific because I think there was a movie documentary, I think it was called Indie Gamer, that focused on the developers of maybe Fez, Braid, a couple other games too. But it's one that just nope, never played. I know Fez from that 70s show, and I like Pez. I know that.
But yeah, I mean, Fez was one of those games that I feel like had a big bubble, like everyone was really into it, and of course, a lot of it was also controversy from the developer Phil Fish. He was kind of an asshole. Actually, he was an asshole, and I downloaded the game because my friend Mikey was like, "Dude, this is awesome." I downloaded it, and it was like too artsy in some ways, and that's some of the problems sometimes that people see with indie titles. Sometimes they try to be too obscure and a little too expressive. I think that's the best word to use. Where some games are just so out there, it's just not fun. It's like an Andy Warhol video game.
Some of those ones, maybe you get, or you don't. I remember a big run of the Pixel Junk games too. that seemed to hit. And I don't know which one was the very first one. And there's lots of collections of the, Pixel Junk Monsters, Pixel Junk Racers, which I think I bought. I don't even remember. I don't know if I was really drunk or I took some sleep medication and didn't go to sleep. Somehow I woke up and this game was on my PlayStation 3. But they had a whole series, and they were very simple, very cool. And a lot of these games, like I said, they don't die. They stay, around. Meat Boy, we're hearing about, it might come out on Switch. And, at this point, it kind of seems like it's been around forever. Shovel Knight's had so many different, releases from digital to physical to DLC that is almost, a new game in a sense, extra levels. They really go on and add to them. Another just really fun one that always caught my eye, and I love playing it. It's so hard. But as you mentioned with the hard games, lots of times they can be rewarding, or they either make you just want to keep coming back. There's a Hotline Miami.
Oh, yeah.
From a few years ago. They've already had a sequel come out. Just outstanding soundtrack. It's just definitely got this, kind of bright, vibrant 80s feel to it. Just a overhead get killed game. Because that's what happens, man. You get killed, it's one hit, one kill. But it really just... it managed to capture that magic that makes you want to just keep going back and playing it. No matter how hard it is, you just keep getting further. Next time you die, it's like, okay, I know what to do. Get a little bit further. Die. It's bloody. It's over the top, to where it's just silly, just completely just murdering people. You're like a hitman. And, once again, like I said, that soundtrack just definitely knocks it out. Yeah.
So good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, indie games has been around for a long time, since the 70s. But, this indie game revolution that started, really predominantly last gen, that's when it started really getting popular. I think, the games had to kind of find this certain groove, because a lot of people, when they hear indie titles, they think of, maybe like a casual game. They think of like Angry Birds, and they may think of like another game that's very, very popular that, blew the socks off gaming as we see it, believe it or not, and that is Minecraft. Now, I've never really been that big of a fan of Minecraft. I just can't get into it. I liked Legos as a kid, but I just can't get into it now. But mind you, Minecraft was so popular that we saw many imitators, including Dragon Quest Builders, which I like that game. But I think a lot of that's because I like Dragon Quest. But it's crazy that now we're at a time where indie games are influencing other indie games that are coming out, but also the indie games are also influencing the AAA and the big wigs. It's kind of like, indie games were almost like this underground rock band, and some big record producer went to a club and saw them play and was like, I need a band like that, because we got that now. We got games that are coming out that big names are making, that I'm like, man, this is, this wouldn't be a thing if, a game like Shovel Knight wasn't popular. When at the time, I'm pretty sure those big wigs probably saw Shovel Knight, and they probably saw it and they're like, oh, that might be something people might be into. Retro is really big, but it blew up. People love Shovel Knight, and that was made by I believe 4 people.
Shovel Knight is definitely, like I said, one of the kings as far as it going, on and on. It will not die, and people still support it. Even has, its own amiibo now.
Yeah, and that's big too. Nintendo, Nintendo was the company that embraced Shovel Knight, and to see a company like Nintendo give, Yacht Club a chance, which Yacht Club was originally a couple members from Way Forward, and then they went and made a Kickstarter for Shovel Knight, and it was successful. And then they approached Sony and Microsoft, but they didn't want to have anything to do with them. And then they approached Nintendo, and Nintendo was all about it. because this is back when the Wii U was still, it was starting to get kind of a little bit of momentum. It just had came out, and they were wanting to put out some stuff, and I guess they saw the promises of Shovel Knight. But the interesting thing about Shovel Knight, I've been listening to an audiobook, and this was recommended from My Backlog Battle. Alex, one of the co-host of that show, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. It's a really interesting book where they talk about video game development, and it's not just indie titles. It's also big titles like Witcher 3 and stuff like that, where people, talk about how they made these games and what kind of trials and tribulations. And you know why that we've gotten so many add-ons to Shovel Knight?
Just because people keep playing it? I don't know.
Well, actually, they were originally backing rewards. They were, because Shovel Knight made so much money in their Kickstarter, these were add-ons that they were promising. But Yacht Club decided that they weren't just going to be, sprite changes. They were going to be like full-on campaigns, and that's why it's been taking so long for, we're getting the King add-on next year, I believe, or next couple of months. And the reason why we're getting that now is because they've actually been working on it. And in reality, Yacht Club's like sick of Shovel Knight. They don't even want to do anymore. They're not going to make another Shovel Knight sequel. They've already said they really don't want to do that. The only reason why they've been doing it so much is because they care about the fans, and they're like, the fans paid for all these campaigns and all this stuff, and we want to do that and promise. And I think this would be a good segue to talk about, indies and Kickstarters too. I mean, we've gotten so many indies because of Kickstarter. We have these small companies that want to make a game, and you have the people that see that vision, they back it, and we've had bigger titles like Shenmue 3 and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I'm not going to mention the other game because I've already talked about it so many times, but if you know Keiji Mifune, it's better than nothing. But I mean, it's really interesting that the concept of the indie title has really revolutionized, and to me, I think it's added a lot of spice to the gaming industry.
Yeah. It's just, that ability, for if the interest there, like you said, to go to a fundraising one. And I could see, with Shovel Knight, I can understand them being tired. And I'm cool with not seeing a Shovel Knight 2. And who knows, down the road, I think they've had so many extras and add-ons. I'd rather see those guys, do something new or do something else and see what they could come up with it. Because I'm sure, it would be just as awesome. And now they have this, reputation, that people believe and know they can put out, a good product. And they're continuing, to upgrade it. It's just very cool.
Yeah, it really is. And what I want to do is I want to talk about, I want to mention like 3 indie titles that I really like. Then I want to have you mention some, because I know we've talked a little bit more about our opinions of indies and not so much of the indie games. And then after that, I'm going to mention some indie titles that our listeners really like, because I left a post up on the Facebook group page, and I was like, hey, what's some indie titles you guys like? One of them that I wanted to mention, because I mentioned Shovel Knight and Cuphead and Limbo. One that I really liked that I definitely want to mention is Journey. Now, Journey was an interesting game in the sense that, you played it and you're playing as this person creature thing in the desert, and you had to solve all these puzzles, and you had this little creature that would follow you. But the thing that was interesting about it is you communicated with other things in the game, and you couldn't use voice chat or anything or commands. You'd make chirp noises, and it would turn out that you were actually not playing with an NPC, but you were playing with someone else online. And they kept that as a secret for a while. And that was the big reveal that you're like, holy crap, I was actually working with other people. I didn't know I was doing this. So I thought that was a really cool game.
Yeah, just a very cool interaction. Very, very, beloved game. I think the same guys that did like Flower.
Oh yeah.
And a couple others. They're all available on a collection. Still, worth checking out. Very awesome games. It is one of those things that did bring a lot of people together. Like I said, ability, to play with that just interaction of just, little sounds. There's no like, hey, follow me over here. You kind of had to figure your own way and, work together. And as some people would work up and. I ran into somebody and we did a couple things together and then they disappeared and, that was it. The time we had together was very nice.
Indeed. Now, what's a title that you would like to mention?
Man, I'm going to string off the same thing almost with Hotline Miami, how I said it had that, instant, you die but you still want to play. If you mix that with, say, like Tony Hawk, you get Ollie Ollie.
Ooh, yeah.
A 2D skateboarding game that, once again, you don't die, you just bust your ass. You're trying to do a rail slide or something. So many, tricks and maneuvers you can pull off, but you're constantly crashing and like, okay, I need to do this, need to do that. It had that, bringing you back, more and more feeling. And that's one that obviously, did well. Ollie Ollie 2. Quite a few times these games have, been free. I know with the PS Plus. I know they were on Vita. I don't know if they're also on, PS3 or PS4 or anything. These are some of the ones if I saw these because, Switch, lots of times, even being console gamers, lots of times these games will have come out, on a Steam or PC. And sometimes, we're a little late to the party.
Oh, yeah.
But I think with the consoles, too, it does bring even more life because there's so many people that only do the consoles. They get a chance to play it and just brings it further out. But, like I said, the Ollie Ollie 2, also amazing. And I'll shoot that also into one I've mentioned quite a few times before that just had a sequel come out itself, which I still need to get, was Nidhogg. The one, it was a really weird kind of fencing, sword fighting game. Very quick. I met one guy online. We started playing, and we just kept playing. And he'd win, I'd win, he'd win. It's just back and forth. All the matches are quick. It's just weird. Makes you think of like some old, like Commodore graphics or something. But the new one, they've definitely upgraded the graphics. They look a bit more like just weird kind of garbage pail kids. They definitely stepped up on that front, and they have some new weapons, and I'm really looking forward to playing that one because I love the other one so much. The kind of it was maybe another kind of one of those earlier kind of crappy graphic games, to me, which now that I love, and all those, fall into the indie games, the Kingdom, New Worlds, your Hyper Light Drifters, Kamiko or Chemico, very kind of early Zelda-like game that's on the Switch for like $5. It's just really fun. And 1-2 I've been playing since we're just kind of stretching into that with this conversation. The Steam World series.
Oh yeah.
The first one I played, I really enjoyed. You were kind of just digging downward, a little bit of a Dig Dug, Mr. Driller feel. SteamWorld Dig, they had SteamWorld Dig Heist, which I didn't play. SteamWorld Dig 2 just came out, and it's got even, I heard it described more as a Metroidvania, and because you do go down, but now you go, across into the rooms. You find secret areas. You upgrade your equipment. Your mining tools. As you go down and across, and just very, definitely upgraded it from the first one to where it just feels more full, and that's one I've really enjoyed. I mean, Gunman Clive, that's an older one we hadn't talked about in a while. Also had a sequel. I think that one's only on the 3DS. Like I said, it might be on some PC stuff, and I'm not really sure. But that's just another one kind of had an older Mega Man feel mixed in with a Western, and just fun. Also, it felt like it moved a little slower. The shots definitely had great play control. But you would die a lot. As you went on further, it started off easy and got, a lot harder. It kind of had an old school feel to it. This Gunvolt, Azure Gunvolt, Strikers, which some of those were kind of stemmed around that one game we said we weren't going to talk about. But those, the Gunvolt games themselves, and I know another one of those is out on Switch. I really enjoyed the one I got on 3DS. Man, Mutant Muds, that's one I didn't play a whole lot of, but that's another one of those games that, like, didn't die. It finally kind of, it went out of the spotlight after a bit, but it had a sequel, and, the fact that it did so good is developers are able, to still continue on making other games like that. I mean, it's just, man, really the list of them is, like, endless. Chinese Room's one developer that put out I did not like Dear Esther, but they've had some of the other games, some of those walking simulator games, Firewatch. I'm sure that one was an indie game that I really loved. A lot of people did. It's very involving. And as far as the game, you kind of, just walked around and interacted with a few things, and it really grabbed you in, with its story. I mean, it's just so, so many, such an endless list, and it's nice to see these guys, do good and, move on and do other things. Thimbleweed Park had some of the developers that, some of the guys that worked on Maniac Mansion. I mentioned that one last time. It's definitely got a X-Files feel to it, point and click. Axiom Verge, if you're into Metroid, that one just came out on Switch. And I believe that was like a one-man game. It's just simple. I love the just kind of grossness. You can shoot stuff, just like blood falls out. Very Metroid-like. It's like a love letter to Metroid. Also gets kind of tough too, which is a going trend with these. But I mean, it's just countless ones. It's very cool. I think oftentimes to go onto the eShop, PSN, just throw on $20-$30 sometimes and just look around and see what piques your interest and try some stuff out.
Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing is a lot of these games are really affordable. A lot of them, at some point maybe even free on PlayStation 1 or Xbox Gold, which is really cool. The last couple ones I wanted to talk about that I enjoyed was Stardew Valley. I really liked that. That was a really fun game because I do like games like Animal Crossing and Harvest Moon, and it definitely had that flavor to it. It was a little more like Harvest Moon than Animal Crossing, but that was a lot of fun. I was going to mention Ollie Ollie because that was really, really cool. And also, another title I was going to mention, and it's not, I don't really would say it was, I don't think this is an indie title because it was definitely, I believe it was published by Ubisoft, but, Scott Pilgrim, that was the game that came out that kind of, at least it had that retro look. If it wasn't an indie game, it definitely looked like one.
Yeah, I mean I would throw that in that category. Very River City Ransom inspired. They took a lot of that. It was tied to a movie in a sense, and in the comic, of course. But it's still one off. So it did fall into that very affordable range. As far as to where it looked like the other ones. So yeah, I would throw that one in the category.
And I mean, and then of course sometimes you get these indie developers that put out these games and they get a lot of publicity, and then they can work on some of the stuff that they've always wanted to work on. Christian Whitehead, he helped put out Sonic Mania, him and his team. He started out seeing the ports that were on mobile of Sonic 2 and Sonic CD, and he was like, oh, I can do that better. And so he actually made his own engine and made Sonic 2 and Sonic CD and sent it to Sega, and Sega really liked it, and that's the definitive versions that you download on your phone. And this is all because of an indie guy that loved a game, and he approached a company, and now he's working with them. And Sonic Mania is awesome. To me, Sonic Mania feels more like a Sonic game than the last couple of years with Sonic Team. So
definitely.
So that's something interesting. But I got a couple of replies from the XSGaming Podcast Facebook group page. I was asking what were some of their favorite indies. One of them I was going to mention is from BioPhoenix, aka Chris. He says Origami on the PS4. I hope I'm saying that right, Chris. He says Lintz Works is indeed an awesome indie dev. Aaron, aka Heavy Metal Gamer, he says Shovel Knight, Retro City Rampage, The Binding of Isaac, Super Meat Boy, Wasted, Mega Coin Squad, Cuphead. Shit, I could go on. And I do agree with that. I mean, those are some very notable titles that even we mentioned when we were talking about indie games. And Down Phoenix, aka Justin, he says some recent faves I've had is Ruiner, which is a slick action cyberpunk game that plays like a cross between Hotline Miami and Max Payne. That sounds really awesome. Hellblade, Shona's Sacrifice, I'm probably saying that wrong, which is my favorite game this year so far, an action-adventure game that dives deep into the mental psychosis of Nordic and Celtic lore. And Cuphead, of course, a masterfully crafted action platformer. All these games are 9s or highers, in my opinion, and I do agree. I mean, I haven't played most of the ones that he mentioned, but I know he's got really, really good taste, and Cuphead, definitely one of my games of 2017. I'm already trying to write a list, because I usually make a top 5 favorite games of 2017, and this year has been just so amazing that it's been really hard for me to just jot down 5 games, because every time I got to 5, another game comes out, and I'm like, oh, I really like this one. But that was their responses. And again, guys, if you have a YouTube channel or a podcast, or maybe if you just like to talk to kind people about video games, be sure to check out the XSGaming Podcast group page on Facebook. That's facebook.com/groups/XSGaming Podcast. Now, before we close the show, let's get into games we've been playing. And the reason why I've wanted to definitely get into this is because I know there's an indie title I've been playing other than Cuphead, and one that you've been playing that I would like us to probably talk a little bit about. And I'm just going to throw the mic at you, James.
Yeah, Golf Story.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, I'm sure probably one of yours too. Just favorites of the year so far. I remember hearing about it a while back, and I was just like, man, that just sounds interesting. And that's the best way I've described it to people. I was like, if you ever had a love for any of those, Mario Golfs or Hot Shots, and some of the old kind of 16-bit era RPGs, this game you would like. I was like, if it sounds like you'd like it, you probably would. I remember I was waiting on the day it was coming out, and I was like, it's on the eShop. I'm like, what the hell? So I was like looking online. I found like the Twitter for the developers, and they were mentioning some different time zones, and they were like 3 o'clock I think for mine, and it came on earlier than that. I kept checking back, and I got it. It's $15, so I think it's definitely a fair price, and it's just man, it really grabbed me in. And I don't play as many RPGs anymore, but this one with the golf element, it kind of adds that action RPGs. The fact you can just drop your balls wherever you want, and you can knock them all over the place. You can hit little switches with your balls. You can hit people in the face with your balls. It's all kind of funny. I know it sounds extra funny the way I said that, but it's definitely a nice element of the game. You actually have these nice courses. You challenge people. I bet you can't hit this island out there. It's got the weird quirkiness. These extra little missions, whether you're playing against somebody, or helping someone out. All has to do with these different golf courses. You have some that are haunted. Some of them you're helping to build. I was playing it the first couple days, and it was one of the first times I actually put my Switch in handheld mode. I pretty much keep mine docked.
Me too.
Almost all the time. And my wife wanted to watch this movie, and I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't really care about this, but I'm still going to sit in the room and hang out. It's like, I'll sit there and play Golf Story. And I really did on the side as far as the handheld mode of the Switch. It was a really nice screen. The fact that I haven't really experienced it that much, and it was definitely cool. Going from a big screen even to that one. But man, Golf Story just blew me away. I had so much fun with it. It's one I kind of think, we'll kind of mention it with like Shovel Knight. Like it's not, I don't think it's gonna get on that level, but I think it could get like a minor cult status. And it's one I could see coming out, as a physical copy one day. It's just so much to it, it's that quirkiness, the golf. I haven't played like a fun golf game in a while. It's simple, but deep, and it's just weird. And so many, people have told about it. My brother, I bought him a copy of that. He was talking about getting that Little Barbarian that came out. And I'd ordered me a copy on Amazon, and I went ahead and sent one to him. And I said, here, man, I said to send it to you. I said, but I tell you what, I said, spend half of that money you were going to spend on that and buy Golf Story. So I'm getting him to get Golf Story in turn for getting that game for him. So just trying to spread the word on it. It's just it seems kind of odd, but like I said, if you think you'd like it, you probably would. And I mean, it's I hear nothing but people, raving about it. I've heard some of the other podcasts I've listened to, some people have mentioned like it's one of my favorite games of the year, and some people look at them or it sounds like it's kind of weird that someone would say that, but to me, I think if you've played it, more like you really understand. Maybe some people it's not really their bag, but for me, it's just it's really been one of the games that's like captured me this year. And once again, like I said, that indie title, I think there was like 2 people that worked on that game. And it was originally going to be a Wii U title. And, it just kind of ended up switching over to the Switch. And, they managed to change it over. And, I don't think they had that long of a span of time, to do that. And it just, man, it turned out great. It's just that's one I would definitely recommend to everybody just to check out. Because we love it.
Oh yeah, it's so good, and I'm planning on doing a review of it. I've just been really, really busy. I haven't been able to get in front of the camera and talk about it, but not giving away too much of my review. But I want to say this game, if you think this is a golfing simulator, you're wrong. If you're thinking that this is a archaic golf game like Hot Shots Golf, you're wrong. This is an RPG. This is a role-playing game with golf elements. But it also, most importantly, focuses on fun. And one of the things that I do like about Golf Story is I like the fact that the missions and the quests that you do are not all, the same objective with different coats of paint. What I mean by that is like, a lot of games, they'll try to soak up time with, like, fetch quest. Can you go over there and get this, book for me? And you get the book for somebody, and then you talk to someone else, like, oh, yeah, can you go over there and get that bag of potato chips for me? It's nothing like that. I mean, there's parts in this game that say you're helping the landscaper get rid of a mole problem. There's moles that are, boring their way in the ground, and, the grass isn't growing the way it's supposed to, and you do that mission, and I'm not going to spoil it, but when you do that mission, you find out there's a huge plot twist that you're just like, this could only happen in Golf Story. You know what part I'm talking about?
No, I haven't got there yet. I haven't quite got to play it as much. Okay,
because like I said, I didn't want to spoil it. Leaving it a little bit more towards my review, but yeah, Golf Story is awesome. So I've been playing Golf Story, Cuphead I mentioned earlier. I bought a new game today, another Nikilis game, the same people who put out stuff like Super Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac, Cave Story. I got a copy for the Nintendo Switch today of Tiny Barbarian, and this has been a really fun game. I did a little live stream on YouTube, and it's a very basic platformer, very similar to like that whole like Razdan kind of Golden Axe, Ghouls and Ghosts kind of feel to it. Really awesome soundtrack. But while it's not breaking any sort of mold when it comes to gaming, it's just fun. I do recommend it. I mean, you can buy it new now for $30. You get a really nice thick instruction booklet that's like very reminiscent of like a Gameboy game, like those size booklets. You also get a keychain and a little pouch and a reversible cover. So it's very similar to the stuff that you got when you got Cave Story on the Switch. Nikilis, man, they've really been showing a lot of love for the Switch, and they've been taking a lot of these indie titles and making not just physical copies, but these like physical mini collection copies, which is really awesome. But yeah, it's pretty much what I've been playing.
The extras are great. You know, it's the same price physical as it is digital. I just got that too in the mail the other day, along with the Black Zoo 60s British horror film about, I guess, zoo animals killing people. It sounded awesome. So I got those in the mail. Hadn't played it. But kind of on that same note, you mentioned Rastan. I got, I think it's Volkark or Volgarg the Viking. It's very easy to get mixed up with Tiny Barbarian. Me and my brother were talking about the games. We kept calling one the Viking. We're both getting confused.
The Tiny Viking.
Yeah, but the Volkark the Viking, it's about $10. Also on the eShop, and it's also very Rastan-like, tough but fair. I like how you upgrade it. Kind of like Rastan Legendary Axe. You'd go on, and you end up getting like this sweet-looking skull helmet, and it's got some good blood, and that's another one. We even thought maybe like there's this decayed body of Rastan in one of the levels. It just kind of made you think of that, the way the guy looked laying there. But just another fun one. We're always up for. We had another show before about the barbarian games. So we're getting a tiny barbarian and a tiny Viking, I guess. But the one, like I said, the Nicalis and just the extra stuff. And as too, as we mentioned before, with physical dropping, it's great to see things like this, and I think we will get a little bit more kind of collector's editions in a sense. Without it being a collector's edition that's $100 with a bunch of crap that you don't want. I mean, this might be some crap you don't really want to, but I think it's cool. Keychains, booklets, pouches, extra swag is just always neat to get. It's just kind of like a little it's like a toy capsule. You get a game and some other crap inside, and all at the same price. I love these.
Indeed. Well, this is going to be wrapping up another episode of XSGaming Podcast. And again, guys, if you're listening to us on Podomatic, don't forget to check us out on iTunes as well. Leave us a little review. Also, leave us a review on Podomatic as well. I didn't realize that Podomatic you could leave reviews. Do that. It really helps the show. It helps boost ratings, and with the ratings, more listeners can find us. And also, you can listen to older episodes that are archived on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Xander Skullion. But it's not just the podcast, it's the podcast plus whatever else I'm doing, rather it's Let's Plays, unboxing videos. Recently I did a little product review of Hagen's Alley Books, which I will leave on the description to their Kickstarter, the SNES Collector's Edition Definitive book. I totally messed that up, but you know what I'm saying. You guys can check it out on the description below. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening, and as always, happy gaming.
Have a pleasant evening, everybody, and go get Golf Story.
Yes, go get Golf Story.